It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Gameplan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today it will be all about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, as we start to prepare for the 2021 NFL season. We'll take a look at some training camp quick hits, reasons for optimism, as well as causes for concern, in addition to our offensive and defensive positional breakdowns. But first, let's take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the Cowboys season as we go into our 4-minute offense. The Cowboys get their franchise quarterback Dak Prescott back into the fold this season after suffering a gruesome ankle injury that knocked him out of the majority of the 2020 campaign. He also returns with a big-time new contract rewarding the 27-year-old former Rookie of the Year and 2-time Pro Bowler for his talents. Prescott has been one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in football and has been one of the most consistent as well. His completion percentage is always at 66. He has thrown for over 17,000 yards with 106 touchdowns to only 40 interceptions. Passer rating is at 97.3, and he's also chipped in with 1,300 yards rushing and 24 rushing touchdowns. He boasts a 42-27 record as a starter, led his Cowboys to the playoffs twice, and has 15 game-winning drives on his resume. So, however you want to slice it, he is the franchise QB, and having him back gives them a chance. You can also make the argument that the Cowboys defense kept them out of the playoffs last year, which is why they went ahead and moved on from Mike Nolan and brought in Dan Quinn, who was most recently the head coach with the Atlanta Falcons, to be their defensive coordinator. Quinn had some success in Atlanta, getting them to the Super Bowl in 2016, and was a stellar DC up in Seattle, where he was able to have them amongst the league's best in that regard. The hope is that his defensive expertise will help a defensive unit that finished 31st versus the run and 28th in points allowed be much more of an asset rather than a liability in 2021. Defensive focus was the name of the game for the Cowboys, and we talked about bringing in new defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, but the Cowboys were also busy in free agency and the draft department as well. Dallas brought in 5 new defensive players in free agency, 6 if you want to count punter Brian Anger. Now in the draft, the Cowboys had a whopping 11 selections, with 7 of those being spent on defensive players, and they didn't draft any offensive players until the 4th round, so 5 of those 7 defenders were top 100 picks. That alone shows you how dedicated they were to getting better on that side of the ball. Now their 1st round pick in the draft was Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons, who gives them an athletic and versatile player who has tremendous upside. Parsons is expected to be their day 1 starter at the 2nd level, and new defensive coordinator envisions him being this defense's version of Bobby Wagner or Deion Jones. Parsons, who opted out of the 2020 college season, brings in the right attitude, want-to, and playmaking ability that will be looked upon to help transform a porous defense into a stout one. We spoke earlier about the impact Dak Prescott has had on the Cowboys team since coming into the league in 2016. Having him back healthy should help this offense reach its potential this year. Prescott was on fire prior to the injury, throwing for over 1,800 yards and 9 touchdowns in only 5 games. And for reference, the Giants quarterback Daniel Jones threw 11 touchdowns in 14 games. But the battle for QB2 will be interesting behind Prescott, as Cooper Rush, Garrett Gilbert, and Ben DiNucci will vie for that role. I actually like Gilbert's ability. I think he'll push ahead of the pack by the time camp is over. The Cowboys' backfield is a potent one, with Ezekiel Elliott leading the way. He fell just short of another 1,000-yard season last year, but he still commands the respect of opposing defenses. I would also expect, with a healthier offensive line and having Dak Prescott back at quarterback, he'll crush that number this year with a healthier yards per carry average to boot. Tony Pollard is a solid reserve, providing extra juice in the run game, and keep an eye out for the battle for RB3, as there are some really good options with Rico Dowdle, who made the team last year as an undrafted rookie free agent, and 2 talented 2021 undrafted rookies in Jaquan Hardy, an outstanding tailback from Division II Tiffin, and Marshall's Brendan Knox, whose game reminds me a lot of Deuce Staley. Dallas has the best receiving core in the NFC East and perhaps in the NFC as a whole. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are legit game breakers that are able to stretch the field vertically. They were extremely productive last year, both with and without Dak, and it's not far-fetched to say that all three could top 1,000 yards each this season. With the more interesting conversation that's going to take place is from spots 4 to 7, as Cedric Wilson gives them a solid player and a core special teamer. They drafted Simi Fehoko out of Stanford in the 5th round, but he'll have to compete with Noah Brown and Aaron Parker and some undrafted rookie free agents to secure his spot on the roster. Things will get very interesting and competitive this summer at wide receiver, but tight end was a bit more of a breakthrough last year, as Dalton Schultz proved his worth as a receiving option when Blake Jarwin went down with injury. Now that Jarwin is back healthy, it gives Dallas a solid 1-2 punch at the position. I would also keep an eye out for free agent signing Nick Ralston out of Louisiana. He was my #1 fullback prospect in the 2020 draft class and could factor into the mix at H-back with both Jeremy Sprinkle and Sean McKeon. Getting healthier up front almost instantly makes this a much better offensive unit. The Cowboys were without their 2 stud tackles, Tyron Smith and La'el Collins, for the majority of the season, with Collins missing the entire year. Guard Zach Martin, who's also an All-Pro, missed 6 games as well. So having those 3 guys back is critical. And just in case there is a setback on the edges, signing Ty Nsekhe in free agency and drafting Josh Ball out of Marshall in the 4th round goes a long way in strengthening the depth with talented players, along with Terrence Steele, who got valuable starting reps last year at tackle as an undrafted rookie free agent. Now, center Tyler Beatis had a solid rookie season and will more than likely build on top of that. I feel as though he has Pro Bowl potential. Connor Williams started all 16 games last year and saw improved play, but I wonder if he'll be able to hold off Connor McGovern, who's a versatile player enough to play center and guard, and that'll be what I'll be watching for this upcoming training camp. Dallas invested heavily into their defense this year at all 3 levels, and up front they brought in defensive tackle Carlos Watkins from the Houston Texans and Brent Urban from the Chicago Bears. They are capable veterans that should help strengthen the run defense efforts, but the team is hoping that the return of former 2nd round pick Tristan Hill and the expected growth of 2nd-year player Neville Gallimore will provide the juice they need on the inside. Hill was actually playing well before he got injured, and Gallimore flashed every game that he played in as a rookie. But in the draft, they took Osa Odigizua out of UCLA to be another quick under tackle within their defense, and the big Quentin Bohanna, who at 6'4", 330, is a space eater that also has quick feet and hands to be disruptive. On the edges, Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence should benefit from a strengthened interior. Lawrence led the team in sacks with 6.5, and Gregory finished with 3.5. I would expect both to increase into that double-digit category. Free agent signing Terrell Basham was an underrated one in my opinion, as he's a really good football player on both ends and will give them good minutes in rotation. Dorrance Armstrong, 3rd-round pick Chauncey Golston, Rondell Carter, and Bradley Anae provide good depth with upside, and I would expect Anae to have much more of a defined role this season, which should lead to more productivity. The Cowboys added more athleticism to the 2nd level this offseason, bringing in former Falcons safety Keanu Neal and drafting Micah Parsons, as well as Jabril Cox. Now, Neal is an impactful tackler that will legitimately knock the stuffing out of you, and he gives him some coverage ability as well, as does Cox, who was one of the top coverage linebackers in the draft class. Parsons is expected to be the centerpiece of this defense, and pairing him up with Jalen Smith should give Dallas 2 excellent run and chase guys that are good blitzers. It also allows Leighton Vander Esch to work himself back into the mix, as he's dealt with some injuries the last couple of years. All 3 on the field gives them a strong trio, while the added depth here makes this unit excellent. There is a lot of both youth and optimism in the secondary. 2020 draft picks Trayvon Diggs and Reggie Robinson II are expected to take steps forward at both corner and safety respectively. Diggs started last year and ended up picking off 3 passes. That experience should help him have a more consistent second season. And Robinson figures to be the starter at safety, as a former college corner has good instincts and ball skills to handle this transition. He also gives him some versatility to match up versus wide receivers, which will allow free agent signing DeMonte KZ to go back to the deep third in certain situations. KZ is a flat-out baller who is recovering from an Achilles injury. Now, in the draft, they spent 3 picks on corners. 2nd-round pick Calvin Joseph out of Kentucky, 3rd-round pick Nashawn Wright out of Oregon State, and 6th round pick Israel Mukumo out of South Carolina, who will make the transition to safety as well. Joseph is a very good talent who has a swagger that you want at the position, and they're expecting him to be a day one starter opposite of Diggs. Wright gives them a long, lengthy corner with superb press skills. He's 6'4" and is able to shrink passing windows with his press ability and his length. Mukumo has very good ball skills, and like Wright, he's a 6'4" player that covers a lot of ground with that length. And I would expect the competition to be fierce at slot corner between Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown. Donovan Wilson is a really solid player that gives him some stability at safety. And keep an eye out for undrafted rookie free agent Tyler Coyle out of Purdue, who has very good ball awareness and athleticism. He was a true safety and kickoff returner at UConn before transferring to Purdue last year and playing more of a Sam backer role. A reason for optimism for the Dallas Cowboys is the fact that they have an elite, high-powered offense. You talk about an offense that's potentially able to put up 3 1,000-yard receivers, a 1,300-yard rusher, a 4,000-yard passer, and also 2 tight ends that should combine for over 1,000 yards. So this offense, along with a very good offensive line that's healthy, definitely gives you a lot of optimism. They also have the best quarterback in the division in Dak Prescott. So in a division that's going to be competitive, when you have the best quarterback out of the bunch, you will always have a chance. And their defense looks to be improved at all 3 levels, adding playmakers, adding athleticism, and guys that can turn the ball over. A major cause for concern would be if the moves on defense that they made all throughout the offseason and in the draft don't pan out like they expected to, and this defense is still holding this team back. So that's one big concern. And the other would be if the offensive line struggles, if Tyron Smith can't regain that form that made him a perennial All-Pro, or if La'el Collins can't regain that form that made him a consistent type player that is a Pro Bowler. If there any type of inconsistency up front, it could derail what could be a special season for Dallas. Now let's take a look at some training camp quick hits, and we'll start with our camp surprise offensively. Nick Ralston, the fullback. People will be shocked at how talented this dude is. Not only can he block like a traditional fullback, he can run routes like a tight end. He can even tote the rock like a short yardage and goal line tailback. I think he has a legitimate shot to win this job and make an impact on the team. And also Terrell Basham, covered him a lot out here in New York when he was with the Jets. This guy is just a solid all-around football player that's really good on both ends of defense, and folks will take notice of that during training camp. Rookie impact players on offense, I look at Josh Ball. I had a high grade on him at Marshall. This dude can dominate up front, is athletic enough to get out and about on run plays. So I think he's going to have an impact getting to that rotation early for Dallas. And Micah Parsons was an obvious choice for the defensive side of football. He's a plug-and-play starter, should fit in perfectly with their linebacking core. X factors on offense, I think it's an obvious one as well. You look at Dak Prescott. We saw what this team looked like without him at quarterback, and there's no stable veteran behind him. So if he's not out there, it could be a problem. But if he's out there, this is a Super Bowl ready team. You also look at Dan Quinn on defense. If he can get this defense to play significantly better than what they did last year on all fronts, this team can go far. As far as breakout players are concerned, Tyler Beatis, I think, is next in line to be a great offensive lineman for the Cowboys, holding down the center position. I think he's going to be outstanding in his second season. And look for Neville Gallimore to make that step forward in his second year as well. He showed quickness off the ball, showed the ability to be disruptive, and a flash each and every time he was out there on the field in every game. The road to the Super Bowl for the Cowboys goes as follows. That defense has to get into the top 15. That means they're doing a better job versus the run. They're getting off the field, and perhaps they're turning the ball over. But that defense can't be like it was last year. The offense, with its potential, has to reach that potential and be a top 5 offense. Again, that could potentially mean 4,000-yard passer, 3,000-yard receivers, and a 12 to 1,500-yard rusher in the backfield. So I do think that's possible. If that happens, man, they could be outstanding. In the secondary, I talked about it earlier, they have to be able to turn the ball over. If they can do that and get the ball back to a top 5 offense, Dallas could go all the way out west and end up in LA for the Super Bowl. I have the Cowboys finishing first in the NFC East. They are the best team in the division, top to bottom. Their offense is going to be explosive. They get Dak Prescott back fully healthy. That offensive line looks healthy, and defensively, I expect them to be much better than what we saw last year. Heck, they almost got to the playoffs last season without Dak Prescott and a bad defense. So imagine when both are now healthy and improved. Look for Dallas to get to the playoffs and make some noise. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating.
It's D-U-E-U till I see you by this point. You're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit. Man, we about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit. Yeah.